This is Sexual Assault Awareness Month. There's a lot that many of us don't know. For example, someone is sexually assaulted in the United States every 68 seconds. Let that sink in for a minute. Every 68 seconds, according to the Rape, Abuse, Incest National Network, or RAINN, more than 63,000 children are estimated to be victims of sexual abuse. So what's being done about it? And who's on the front lines trying to put a stop to those horrific incidences of abuse? Other than police officers, and the ones most likely first people to start the healing process are oftentimes forensic nurses. Here this morning to talk about their very important role. Dr. Kara Breeden, the founder and CEO of the Forensic Center for Excellence, and Chow Nguyen, our former colleague in this crazy business, who's clearly found a higher calling as a licensed counselor at the center. Good morning to both of you.
Good morning. Good morning.
You founded this 4 years ago. Why did you do that?
Well, I've been a forensic nurse since 2011, and I was working in the hospital system, and time again, we would have victims that had been sexually assaulted show up to the hospital. They had been to 3 or 4 places looking to have an exam done, and there just wasn't enough resources in this community to serve victims the way they needed to be served.
Well, you people who come there and they had already tried other places to be examined?
Yes, so it was very common at the time for hospitals. Again, it's a very complex specialty. At the time, it was really hard for hospitals to have a service that could help be available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And so it was just something they couldn't figure out how to tackle. And so I just knew there had to be a better way to make sure that these victims were cared for in this community. And so we just kind of went on a path on creating a community-based model so that hospitals could have this service no matter what.
So when we talk about being examined, what role do forensic nurse examiners play in helping the abused, those victims? What role do you play?
So we're always nurses, right? And so nurses' main primary goal always is to do a physical assessment. We're assessing for injuries. We're assessing for disease process. We're in this specialized role, we're documenting injuries. We're listening to the victim kind of talk to us about that experience that they had, but making sure that we're connecting them with other community partners to help them get to that next step in healing and recovery, which is so important for them.
So what continues to be the most challenging part about what you're doing?
I think making sure people know, where to go when something like this happens, what their options are. There's so many decisions that have to be made in this moment of trauma. So how do you answer some of those questions? And so just being an available resource for individuals who may be experiencing these types of things to ask questions like, do I want to involve law enforcement? Do I have to involve law enforcement? What if I want to have evidence collected and an exam done, but I don't want to make those decisions yet? What do I do then? And I think our organization is special because we have a 24/7 hotline that a nurse always answers, and people can ask those questions. Mm-hmm. We can give them those answers without any commitment to what those next steps might be for them.
So I want to bring Chow in on this next point. We're talking about some of the statistics we have about what's happened in the last year. For last year, your forensic nurse examiners conducted 1,729 medical exams. It's about 144 per month. This year, you're ahead of that pace by quite a bit, 174 exams a month. With what one might expect, and that is the majority of the victims are women. Chow, talk about that, the victims we talk about, the challenge of healing. That is a big part of this whole process, is it not?
The trauma of abuse is great. And with the clients we see that first touch the forensic nurses and then decide, should I receive counseling? What about the resources available? Then they can come to us, and what TXFNE, the Forensic Center of Excellence, does so well is that continuum of care. Access legal services, access counseling. And when a survivor comes and says, I shared my story, I'm going to decide whether or not I want to go to law enforcement, I'm going to decide what I want to do, but at least my journey to healing begins. And trauma looks very different for sexual assault survivors. They may forget the incidents, they may freeze, they may not want to talk about it, but they do want to heal, and that healing journey is available for survivors.
And what you're talking about is different altogether than, because you mentioned about whether or not they want to get involved with police or not, but
right.
What you're talking about is altogether different from what police would be asking. It's a whole different category, correct?
That's right. Survivors, when they come and see us for counseling, they may dismiss what's going on. They may not want to talk about it. But the symptoms of trauma are very similar. It's PTSD, it's restlessness, it's excessive crying. Sometimes they want to talk about it. Sometimes they don't. Those things we decide when we're in a room with a survivor, holding space for them so that they can heal. And survivors do want two things. Many of them do want accountability for the harm that's been done for them, but many, many want to begin that healing journey, and that's where it begins.
And so talk about that and the value of this being Sexual Assault Awareness Month. What you would hope that people would gain from that, because we have all these different months, but this is something we can really focus and drill down on what is really a critical problem in our communities that continues to get worse. What would you hope people would get from paying attention to this month?
I want them to know it's not their fault. I think this is still one of those crimes that the victim is usually held accountable for their behavior, right? What were you wearing? Where were you? What time was it? Who were you with? And I think that is one of the things that we really have to work on as a community to kind of work past those things, because those are the barriers that our patients, our families, like our friends, our people who are going through these things, those are the things that kind of stick in their mind on the things they did to cause this, which it wasn't anything they did. Like, this is not something that they caused. So I think the awareness of that, how to seek help, how to access, free confidential, line to ask questions. What do I do if X, Y, or Z? I think that's important.
Talk about the synergy between what's going on between your center and now you have an open house next week.
Well, we're celebrating the 4th anniversary of the Forensic Center of Excellence, so we are going to be hosting an open house soon, and we'll share it with all of your viewers and let you know when that opening date. And that's really to share what we do, the resources that are available, and to let survivors do know, Kara raised a really good point, that they are to be believed, that this is not their fault, and that there is help available. Hope and healing are possible.
This whole process, just 4 years now, can you believe where it's been, and what do you hope will continue to be the focus of your center from years to come?
I didn't have any idea that the Forensic Center would look like this 4 years later. We started with like a very small idea of how to make things better for victims, and I think we saw 350 patients our first year. Again, we're on trajectory to see about 22 to 2,300 this year. We've expanded geographically. We're now in the Rio Grande Valley. We're expanding to Dallas. We just continue to focus on what are the gaps in the community, how do we fill that, who do we partner with, what access to services can we provide to make sure victims have what they need when they're going through this process.
I want to continue this conversation on Newsmakers Extra. We're going to do another segment here. Would you stick around?
Yeah.
Thank you. Dr. Breeden, Chow Nguyen, thank you for being here, for all you do as well. I'm going to put the information about your organization and the open house information. We can do that on the Newsmakers page on clicktohouston.com. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.